Dacus go with Providence and the change of goaltenders?
We'll start with the goalies. Vladar went back because he's going to play. They have 3 and 3. There's just him and Max there, so he'll play tonight. He'll come back tomorrow, back up for Yarrow in Pittsburgh. So if we had played him tomorrow night, then it would be tough to get to Pittsburgh for a 12:30 game. So he's going to play tonight. So Max will play Saturday, Sunday. So that was a bit of managing their net down there more than any reflection of how he practiced or didn't practice. So he'll be back with us. As for backs, he went on waivers. It's something we had discussed internally with Donnie, and we just felt that there were some guys becoming healthy. Then with Richie, in terms of Coleman, and Bleed is getting closer. Are we going to look at younger guys? And just felt that at the end of the day, you do what's best for your team, what makes you the best team, and ultimately Donnie put him on waivers, feeling that was the best thing. And from here, we'll see where it goes for David. To speculate where he'll end up, let's talk about that once he clears, if he clears, then we'll have a better idea.
As a coach, what's it been like dating back to last season, just to try to handle the whole situation with David?
Well, okay, so there's 2 sides there, right? I have a lot of respect for the person as a human being, what he's accomplished in this league. We brought him in to give us some of that bite. That's been a subject around here for the last few days, and that's something that we hoped, and it was there for a while, and then some concussions came into play. I think that affects your decision as a coach when you put a human being on the ice. We saw it a little bit last year with David trying to play a little bit of that role and found himself in 2 or 3 scraps, and I don't know if that's the ideal role for him, but good for him to go out and try to carve a way to get back in the lineup. But as a coach, I told to the players, as a guy that as a dad who has 2 young girls, you always want to be careful that you're pushing guys to play a certain way, but now you've got a guy that who knows might be 1 hit away from having some damage, so you got to be very careful with that. I know it's a business, but that is the human side of it, and when you're around the players long enough. So that was a bit of an issue for me to try to push him in that direction. So you talk about a different direction. We just felt a guy like Cooley or maybe Bleed down the road has more pace to his game to add to to go that route with David. So you've got a Wagner in the lineup who plays that banging role in the first line, so he bumps into that. He bumped into Richie to move into the 3rd line. So there was a little of roster competition that we felt the other guys were a little ahead of. So that's how we best handled it. I know David doesn't agree with the situation, but that's the decision we made for the good of the team. I respect David, like I said, as a person, as a player. We just felt we had better options, and that's how we're going to go forward and see how it plays out.
You keep mentioning Bleed. He hasn't played much up here when he was healthy. I mean, what is it about him that's kind of being put him on the radar?
Well, I think when he first played here, he added some bite to our lineup in terms of forecheck and annoying people. And then he went to Providence and grew his game. I had him as a young guy down there, man. I always liked Anton's puck pursuit, his pace of the game, his ability to get in there. He could finish a little bit. Had some work to do on the walls. Tight area plays to stay up here full time. So now he comes in and has a real good year. Finished last year. Has a good training camp. He shows us that he's very close, and then gets hurt unfortunately. So I think that's where it comes from. We thought he had made appropriate steps over the last year 1, 2, 3, now to year 4, where maybe he could push some guys in the lineup. When Nordy got hurt, that would have been a perfect opportunity for Anton, but unfortunately he was hurt. So now we're looking at the opportunity now. Whether he gets it or not, until he's completely cleared to play, we don't know, but that's part of the process we've evaluated here in the last couple of weeks with terms of our young guys.
Coach, the other night in Columbus, after what happened with Tuukka in the first intermission, I was watching on TV, and Nordstrom says there needs to be a physical response here. He was one of the guys who sort of initiated that in the second period and tried to be more physical. He was that way again last night. What have you thought about that aspect of his game lately?
Well, with what happened the other night, it was, listen, I can't get into every detail. But discuss that, those things.
Yeah.
How do you address them on the ice? How do you address them? I mean, you can discuss it all day as hockey fans. Do you not give the guy a choice and just grab and start smacking him around and deal with the consequences? Do you try to engage him and the old-fashioned way, maybe just answers to it and it's done, you move on to the next shift and And with the, you know, the appropriate player in this situation, to tell Z to go, you know, go after a guy that's played 2 minutes, a young guy, I don't know if that's the appropriate way to solve it. So we talked about it in the room. So maybe someone else has to step up tonight. That's how this team has always been. We all have each other's back. Whoever's turn it is, his turn is. We've seen David Pasternak 2 years ago, Jake DeBrusk, you know, in their rookie years, go step up for guys. So Nordy just took it upon himself a little bit, Jake and Brennan, so it didn't happen. But good for Nordy. You know, he recognized, yeah, you know, this is something I can handle. I'll take it if it presents itself to him. Next time on the ice it did, and nothing came of it. And you know, then you make your decision after that to play hockey or try to further engage. And he went back to playing hockey, and that's where the game led us.
Do you know any more about Kretsch yet?
Did not skate today. He's here in the gym doing an off-ice workout. I would list Kretsch as day-to-day right now. You know, so then it becomes, if he doesn't play Sunday, you know, is he better off than taking the whole break off? So, but let's see where he's at tomorrow, see if he skates.
And you have enough, right? I mean, if David clears, we don't have to bring anybody.
No, we have 12 healthy forwards. Camphor was the extra D last night, so an extra defenseman. If David clears tomorrow and Donnie decides to use the roster spot for some we travel to Pittsburgh, then I guess we can update it there. We'll see where, like I said, Bleed is progressing. He's not completely clear to get into, he's in practice but not games, so you know, we may have an extra there or we'll pop somebody up.
Take two more.
Coach, Torrey Krug, you know, obviously we discussed it before, how he's become such a leader over the years, but I mean, when you're looking in that dressing room, you don't have to get into details or anything, but you know, you've got the guys like a Berge, a Char, guys that were here in 2011, even Craig, and then you've got him sort of a little younger. Do you sort of see him as that transition leader between the older core and the up and coming core?
Well, I do, because he was here in 13. Okay, so you didn't get the same result as 11, but you went through a lot of the same process, the learning curve. So he went through all of that. And so now he understands a little better of, you know, what it takes to win in late April, May, June. So I think that builds your credibility as a leader when you go through that. So he certainly bridges the gap. There were some other players here that for whatever reason were moved on that may have been in that, but he's one of the few that are still, you know, like Dougie or Spooner. You go through the different guys. Siggy might have been that, is he around that age? So those middle of the road, they were moved on for other people, and Torrey's been a guy that stayed and played, you know, through it, so he should be, and we've encouraged him to do that. Now you've got Wagner and Coyle both signed in terms, so they should be now grabbing part of that, as that bridging the gap between the DeBrusks and the Bergies or whatever, you know, old and young. And that's our expectation, is for those guys to do a little of that. They're quiet, but they can still lead by example and grow a little more of a vocal or initiating presence on the ice. I think Wagner does a good job of that, so does Charlie. But we'd like to see more, especially now that we've made the commitment that they're going to be Bruins, that they grab a little more of that for that age group.
Just when there's an organic fight like Torrey had with Hornquist last night, do you believe that there's a team building aspect to that? Does he get some attaboys? Does he bench?
Oh, 100%, Fluto. I think it started, if you look at it, Hornquist was kind of giving it to Grizz in the ribs in front of our bench. Something that probably happens each way, 20 times a night. There's exchanges that don't, you know, always go somewhere. This one, Torrey took offense to it. I think Hornquist had bumped into Torrey a few times in this game. If you remember, Hornquist bumped into Charlie a couple of years ago. We kind of settled it. So he plays hard. He's a good player. He plays hard. He finishes his checks, and Torrey ran into him once too often to his liking, I guess, and they settled it. Sometimes they come out of they go into the box and cooler heads prevail coming out. Nothing comes of it. Obviously, I didn't see what was going on. Maybe they kept a running conversation, and you know, then you have some good old-fashioned, just two guys settling a score. They both get up, no worse for the wear. So I think it's good for our team. I don't know how Pittsburgh feels, but good for the crowd. You know, it usually gives you a spark, especially when you do well. So I thought it gave us a boost all around. Good timing, you know. And Torrey will do it. I've seen him do it before. He's not a regular, but I think he has in his career a few bouts and typically does well.
Thanks, Arnold.